was just jamming to it by herself. Yeah, we're good. We're vibing, so.
Welcome to the Detox Podcast. Yeah. Detox Pod, where we don't know what the hell is going on. Yeah, welcome to the
Here. Second tries the charm. That happens. We're here. What's going on, D-Bags? Hope you guys are doing well. Back here again with another episode of the Detox Podcast. Actually, episode, I don't even have it written down. I think it's 125. And we're here today. We got a really special guest here in the building. But before I can introduce you guys to her, if you're new here and you enjoy music, podcasts, or comedy, do consider subscribing, because we got a whole lot of that going on around here. And before we jump into the episode, I got to talk to you guys a little bit about car insurance. These days, seems as if we're able to do more and more from home. So while you're at home, why are you saving money on your car insurance? Your hometown agency, Kenosha Auto Insurance, has specialized for literal years in simple, hassle-free car insurance using the latest and touch-free technology to help you and your family get the best rates. So what are you waiting for? Give them a call today, 262-448-4141. That's 448-4141. The website's kenoshains.com. It's linked down below. And one last time, that's 262-448-4141. Give them a call. Tell them Rita Detox sent you. The worst that can happen is you will get the best rates. Now, with all that out of the way, I am really excited to get to talk with my guest today. She's a healer, a podcaster, a medium, above many other things as well. But let's give a wet detox welcome to Loren Purcell. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you coming out. We're pre-recording this episode, so we're here on a Sunday afternoon, but I really appreciate you making the time. And you brought a bunch of goodies with you, so I'm sure we'll get into that. But I introduced you as a healer, a podcaster, and a medium. Is that correct? Those are all legit terms that you would. Okay, and so a lot of people, when I was telling people that I was having a medium on this week, and they're like, "What is that? What the hell is a medium?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, we're gonna have some explaining to do. So why don't you let us know what is a medium?"
Well, and it's interesting too, because like I've gotten a lot of confusion whether it's medium or median. Like I've had people refer to me as a median, and I'm like, I'm not in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna block traffic for anyone. So a medium is somebody who kind of acts as a go-between, really, a medium between this world and the next world, or spirit realms in general. So that's all it is I'm the middleman.
Okay. And so like there's people are, and like yourself are can kind of provide like services then as a medium to you're the middleman. You're helping either people connect with the other world, I guess. How do you like figure out that you are even a medium? I know we talked about this prior when I first talked about getting you on the show, but it's something that I think I know myself didn't really understand, and I bet a lot of people don't understand.
It's one day you just start, I don't know. For me, it was like one day I just heard something in my head. And this is like, I believe in like working with gods and goddesses and angels and all this other stuff. But this was, not to date myself, but kind of before like the internet was hip. So I'm like maybe around the year 2000-ish. So I mean, all of a sudden I woke up in the morning and I heard this word in my head, Sekhmet, and I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, what is that? And then I started Googling it, and it was actually an Egyptian goddess who is a little bit more obscure, but extremely bloodthirsty.
Okay. And you're just hearing it in your head?
Yeah, it woke me up. And so then I started researching it, and it was actually like giving me a heads up as to like what I was going to have to face and deal with in my life. And it was really an epic journey, and I had to fight through a lot of stuff. And so it was like the warrior goddess kind of like shouting and like shaking me awake.
Get
like,
up.
Get up. It's time to start working. So.
Wow. I mean, what did that, I guess, end up what did you end up having to face, I guess? I mean, you don't have to get into everything. I'm sure it was, it was an epic journey, as you said. But I'm sure you probably have had to overcome a lot and probably learn a lot with becoming a medium and kind of learning everything there is to know about that. So
I think there was a lot of like inner work I had to do, a lot of like healing past like experiences and traumas, and kind of like ridding myself of like toxic relationships that were actually very people who were very close to me, and that took years. But
Yeah.
it was like basically like it's time to do that, and I couldn't really like be the person I needed to be until I was able to like get all of that stuff sorted.
Yeah.
So
I think that's something that I know I've definitely felt personally with toxic relationships and trying to like, whether it's friends, family members, significant others, whatever it is, it's something like that. It can really drag you down. And I'm sure you probably maybe understand it on a different level with energies and things of that sort. But like, it's not a way to live when, the people closest to you or people that are close to you kind of have almost a hold over you like that.
oh yeah. Well, and I think energy, like the energy of it is, you think about like energy vampires, and I mean that kind of toxic relationship can cause like major illnesses. It can cause
Really?
mental issues, job loss, like all sorts of things. So
Yeah.
it's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that the strain of even dealing with like someone who is like maybe even like a full-blown narcissist or things like that, like those sorts of things, or people that just don't want the best for you, stuff like that is toxic. But so as a medium then, now, like, so you said you kind of had to go through some inner healings and whatnot. And you said I introduced you also as a healer, and I know you offer some healing energy, like healing services and energy cleansings and whatnot. What is that all about? What does that mean? How do we do such things? What is that?
Well, I have always, so psychic abilities come out in different ways for different people. And I actually, on my mother's side, it was very Eastern European kind of, the kind of gypsy realm almost. So, I had a grandmother who had like she had prophetic dreams, but she also was really good with like medical intuition, finding out like what she could spot, like if somebody had an illness or a disease or things like that. My mom had prophetic dreams. My sister
What's
has
a prophetic dream then?
So like basically seeing something in a dream that turns out to come true.
Oh, okay.
So and then my sister has several different abilities, and I have several myself, but they're all very different. But I knew from a very young age that I was that I worked with energy, that I could feel energy from the time I was 2, but I didn't put it together for years and years until I was 20 something, that I could actually like do this and focus and actually look. It
Almost
was
hone in on it.
yeah,
in a way.
it was pushed down, like being Catholic, growing up Catholic, it was not encouraged.
Yeah. that
So
makes sense.
and when you're a child, you live your life through your rising sign, and I was a Taurus rising, and so that's very practical minded, very focused on the present, and getting stuff done, and I accomplished a lot being a Taurus. I loved it. It was great.
So okay, so you meant, so you were a Taurus?
Well, I mean, you express your childhood through your rising sign, and I'm Taurus rising, so I'm a Cancer. And then, by the time you're like 18, you kind of switch to more your sun sign. And that's when I kind of like lost my grip as much on kind of the physical world and like being like successful in the traditional sense. And I was like much more interested in like what was going on behind the scenes. And like, I think I saw the Matrix movie around that time too. And it was just very mind blowing for me.
Yeah, kind of peeling the curtain back on. You're like, okay, what else? What could be?
Yeah.
So you mentioned rising and then sun. What is? A lot of people have broken this down for me. And it for some reason hasn't stuck completely yet. But with like the astrology signs and whatnot. So if I'm someone, my birthday is November 3rd.
Okay.
So I just knew, okay, my birthday was within this range. It meant I was a Scorpio. And then I started hearing these terms of, your your sun sign, your moon sign, and ascending or descending, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what any of that is.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that, you till you're 18, you process your childhood mostly through your rising, you said. So like, how does that work? Like, how many different signs, I guess, does one person kind of go through or have, I guess?
Oh gosh. Well, and it's not exactly signs. Like by the time you get to be an adult, it's more like, and I'm not like a huge astrologer. I have friends who are like big into astrology, but there's a lot of like planetary events that happen throughout the course of your life that put you in different phases. So I know like Saturn opposition is a big one, Saturn return is a big one, and they have like, I think the Saturn return is around age 27 or 28, but don't quote me. And then your Saturn opposition is like in your 40s, like middle age. And then there's a bunch of other events that happen through the course of your life that kind of trigger you to face certain issues.
And sort of almost potentially could like shift your perspective on things.
Oh,
in a
yeah.
way. So is that sometimes where you see people with like quarter life crisis or
Yeah.
like a midlife crisis or thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would make sense, where something happens and they're like, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing what I think I should be doing in my life, or something like that.
Huge wake up call. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wow. Okay, so there is this, because that's what with people astrology, I feel like, and I definitely have been in circles where astrology gets sort of a bad rap, especially with the social media version of astrology,
Yeah.
which is, the average, I guess, 16-year-old girl with a tapestry in her room, and she's got like I mean, you said you brought some crystals with you today. I'm not sure the different levels of crystals, but I know these girls that I'm talking about will have like the fake crystal from like Walmart or Walgreens with lamp. And
No, that's
they'll
Himalayan salt. That's
Okay,
different.
okay.
And that's negative ions and very healing and cleansing. So
Okay.
don't knock the
So
Himalayan.
that works. The thing for I plug into the wall. That
Yes.
one. Okay, really.
Yes, it absorbs negative energy and like.
Even
look,
if it's like a made out of plastic one.
no,
like,
it can't be made out of plastic. Then it's just a sham.
Okay, but I feel like I've seen, yeah, okay, so that's what I feel like astrology gets a bad rep from. These girls will be, on, or men too as well, will be on like social media and just be like, someone will say something and be like, oh, you're a Scorpio, whatever, and it's like, what does that even, bro, I don't know what that means. Like, what are you saying? I can't act any other way than this. And I think that's where maybe some people, including myself, have like a hard time, where it's like, wait, so you're telling me that I'm boxed into this, I can only act or react in this way, or and I think maybe that's could be a misinterpretation on my part or other people's part, but I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts.
Again, I'm not like the biggest astrology person. I use
Yeah.
some astrology, like when I do readings for people, I actually do a combination of things. So they come to me for a tarot reading, but I'm doing a little astrology, some numerology, some crystal stuff. So like, but yeah, I mean, I think that people who don't know very much about astrology at all are going to just see the 12 signs and then make, sweeping
Assumptions, yeah.
statements about,
Blanket statements and things like that. That makes sense. What you mentioned, a couple things I wanted to get to. You mentioned you kind of remembered having, almost feelings of maybe potentially being a medium at like 2 years old.
Yeah.
So when you started realizing that like you had this and you could kind of hone in on it, were you able to like kind of look back on past events and be like, oh, that's what that was, or that's what was going on then?
What do you mean?
Like you said, you kind of realized and sort of started figuring out that you could kind of like hone your skills in around your 20s, right? And so
right.
like as you kind of, were you then able to kind of reflect on things maybe growing up where you're like, oh, that might have been that trying to like tug at me and be like, hey, I need to start doing this, or and you were kind of again pushing, wasn't really at the forefront of what you were doing as you're being raised, but
Yeah.
what kind of things happen at like 2 years old that you can remember? I mean, I don't remember anything from when I was 2, so I think that's pretty crazy that you can remember something.
Well, and it was funny because and I just wonder if it was like a totality of circumstances, because at the time when I was 2, I was living in Roswell, New Mexico, so it was a very powerful place anyways. And then one day I just walked outside and I saw that the tree was glowing, and that was it. And I didn't understand it, except I knew like on a fundamental level that it was safe and secure. And I was going through a lot of kind of negative stuff in the home, and so every time I was upset or scared, I would actually go and sit under the tree outside, and it was very comforting, and it had like sparkles and it was glowing, and it was beautiful. Like
Wow.
one of the best things I've ever seen in my life.
And so did other people were not able to see it in the same way then, I imagine, or
No, nobody could see it, and I don't think I even told anybody for years. I was 2.
yeah,
So it was like one of my earliest memories, and it was just something that I carried with me.
that's crazy. I mean, it's kind of fantastic that you carried it that you remember that. I mean, it really is. And you mentioned too with we're kind of getting when we were getting kind of off the astrology stuff for a minute. And when people, you mentioned the tarot card readings, when people come to you for those, what's like the benefit? I mean, I guess first off, what is it for for people that don't know, what is a tarot reading? And then what are the reasons that people want to get one, you know, other than it being, oh, this is a cool thing, like I want to, you know, I'm curious, but is there a reason that people are like, I really got to get in and I'd like to do that? Or is it more of like, I'm just curious type of thing?
Well, and that's the question, because it does like run the gamut. Like I've worked events and like nightclubs when I was younger, where it was like, you know, the thump 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 music, and I'm like working in like a back booth, and like people are like drunk going, yeah, I guess I should try this, and I'm like, please don't.
Oh God.
Maybe just have some water and come back.
Yeah. Come back in a few hours. I couldn't imagine that being at a club and just in the back, there's this girl just doing tarot card readings.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Rita, that was you. That's crazy.
Because there were like, especially downtown Chicago, I mean, there would be like themed events, and you know, people would dress like it was the white party, it was this or that, and I was like kind of entertainment for the big club thing, and yeah, so it's just
that's
really crazy.
Probably an interesting experience in itself.
But I mean, I do like it, and in the course of my career, I've done thousands of readings, and but yeah, so things like that, the clubs, they're just out of curiosity. The worst is when somebody makes someone get a reading. It is the absolute worst, because their energy is not tuned in at all. Yeah. They may not be open to it. You're pulling things, and even if they're accurate, they're like, I just don't know. And then they would like argue with me, and then I would be asking just a couple general questions, and then they'd admit, well, yeah, but I didn't think that was important. And I'm like, I'm going to my special place.
Interesting. So what is the reading? What is it in general then, I guess?
So anyways, but when people are actually seeking it out, and I'm doing a half hour, an hour session with someone, it's to kind of like figure out what's going on in their life at the moment, and kind of find out what the trajectory of it is for a certain period of time, whether that's 6 months or a year and a half even, that if they don't change anything about their lives, like given what they're doing right now, how is that going to turn out? And, you know, how can we more effectively make some decisions or choices so that you don't have to end up in that particular position if it's something that you're worried about or don't want to experience.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's very interesting, because you can you're sort of looking at the trajectory of where you'll maybe be in six months or something like that, and you can, again, if you don't change, and then you're able to kind of look at it. Are you able to then, I mean, I'm not sure how it works, offer some sort of guidance then when you're able to look at it? I don't know what kind of information they give you and stuff like that.
Well, and also I do have multiple psych degrees, so that does help.
That probably helps as well.
And that's how I actually use the cards, is that I kind of tune into that kind of Jungian archetypal symbolism. I find that the Pamela Coleman Smith from the Rider Waite deck or whatever has the best artwork, that there's a lot of archetypal symbolism in it that stimulates the subconscious of the person that I'm reading for, that, you know, even if there's something that isn't discussed in the reading, the symbolism alone will trigger something in the subconscious that will be a takeaway for them for later. So it really is kind of incredible. Like there's layers.
Yeah. So is it, how you said it was about 30 minutes? Is like how long it usually takes ish?
30 to 60. I do 2 different sessions depending on how much time somebody wants to spend. Yeah. But longer sessions will definitely include other things, you know, possibly animal oracle, possibly, you know, I usually use some crystals, just because I find when I do multiple modalities, going back to psychology, but like when you do different things, you get different parts of the puzzle, and then you can kind of see how things keep repeating, and it gives more power to the reading.
Yeah, that makes sense, because if you're able to sort of, if you can see something that's repeating over and over, you can be like, okay, then almost gives you a baseline of like where to work from, and as you're saying, put the puzzle together. Or
that, you know, sometimes people are like, well, I don't think that's really important, I know it came up in the reading, but if it keeps coming up in these other things, it's like, yeah, maybe it is important.
Yeah. Wow. What's I guess, is it ever like, are people ever really shocked when as they're doing them, where they're like, oh my goodness, like maybe they get a not so great, the trajectory of whatever they're looking at is not looking so great, and they're sort of like, oh my God? Or I'm sure this probably happened at some point. but-
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the harder question is it brings up a lot of stuff that like they already know in some way, but they don't usually, like, people rationalize it to themselves that it's not that big a deal. And then, it's like, well, they're coming to me for some reason, they are having issues with their job, or they are, feeling like they keep having medical issues. But then it turns out that, hey, they're in a really toxic relationship, and that's what's actually powering all these other like events to unfold. So when you kind of bring that up, like, oh, this keeps repeating about this person, they're like, oh, I didn't really think that was, oh yeah, that's so and so, but that, we just kind of sort of see each other, or whatever, we're divorced but we're living together and things happen.
Yeah. So with the reading, then, is it like you sort of kind of have there's a deck of cards, right? The specific deck of cards you were mentioning, and is it something where they're drawn to specific cards, and then maybe they're picking them, and that's you're able to kind of read off of that, or is it how does that, like, the actual reading itself go down?
Well, so there's different like spreads with tarot. You do usually spreads. I mean, you can pull a card. It really depends on, like, a lot of people will pull one card if they're working with themselves for practice, like every morning, like a card of the day or something, kind of giving them some insight as to what they should be concentrating on for the day. But if you're doing a reading for somebody, you do different spreads. A lot of times I use the Celtic Cross just because it gives so much information. And I shuffle, but I tell them it's called programming the cards. So they think about, like, what will their life be like in the next 6 months or the next year, or whatever time frame they pick. Like, it doesn't have to be those. If they have a very specific time frame in mind, that's fine. But they can't answer the question. So they have to keep just thinking it over and over, and that's what programs the energy into the cards.
So they don't think of, like, what they would hope it to be in 6 months. They're just thinking that question.
That
over and
question.
over. Okay.
And then I'm shuffling and I say, when you feel ready, just tell me when to stop. And then if I'm working with them in person, because I do, I've done phone work for years and years, and Zoom is newer, but that's been fun. But if they're in person, I'll have them cut the deck and then get their energy on it more. It just kind of adds to the experience, and then, sort it all out.
Wow. So as you're going through, then, is it you're able to, again, you're kind of interpret? There'll be a reason, almost kind of energy based reason of some sort, that the cards are in whatever order they're in?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what. Wow. So what is a lot of? I mean, I guess what's like an example of like a reason a card might be. Like, if I were to cut the deck and you were to, like, flip over the first card or whatever, and it be, I don't know, any example of, I don't know the names of the cards, but if there was a card, like, what would be a reason for a specific card, it being the first one, I guess?
Okay. So the Celtic Cross, the way it works is every, like, position tells a part of the story. So, like, the first card that I laid down is actually just it's indicating, like, the energy around the next year. And so there's like 2 in that position, which make the cross. And then you're kind of exploring, like, what elements, in your past were kind of contributing to where you are now. What element is in your life, but is just leaving your life, or maybe just left your life? What is something that may happen to you? What's something that will happen to you? What are your fears? What do other people think about this situation? What are your hopes? And then what is the end result? So there's a lot of different
Yeah,
pieces.
that makes sense. So around how many cards then would make up that cross then when you do
Okay, I think it's 10.
It's 10. Okay, I'm just
like,
curious, because that's
God.
That's a lot of different. That's a lot of layers, like you're saying. That's a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's, in a lot of ways, probably layered reasons of why each of those are where they are.
Right. Well, and you look
person.
for patterns and
Yeah.
repetition, and, like, whether there's major arcana or minor arcana dominating the spread will tell you if it's, like, one of those major pivotal life path moments where there's a fork in the road, or if it's just kind of a time to make the donut situation.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot for tarot card readings. They seem like, I guess I haven't heard a whole lot about them, but the little I did know, I was under the impression that it was more so like you were saying before, where some people just, like, pick the one card and they're like, okay, this is what's happening to you, this is what's going on right now, or something like that. That's probably that's a process right there.
Yeah, that's
like
the TikTok version.
Yeah, that sounds like the TikTok version. That makes sense. So are there any when you're kind of stepping away from that and you're getting into more of the medium services. If someone, what do people approach you for, like, I guess most commonly when they're like considering, that we want to go see a medium? Like, what does that look like?
There's a bunch of different reasons. Obviously it can help with closure, especially if somebody died suddenly. But if people worry, sometimes people who die suddenly, the person that seeks me out is kind of worried if they actually like went to heaven, or like if they're stuck somewhere, or what's going on. Like there's a lot of different reasons. But it really depends on the person.
Yeah. So is it are you able then, and I know we've talked about this before when we were figuring out when we were going to schedule this and whatnot, but are there specific things that you're able to sort of figure out, or is it more so like, I'm sure it's situational, but is it more so kind of like in certain situations you're able to get more or get less, I guess?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I think with my work, I've kind of discovered that it also relies on the person seeking me out. So if they are really open to it, I end up getting a deeper connection to the person who's passed than somebody who, like, I've had it come up where the person hasn't even really known the person who died. That they were related, but they died, and now they were trying to like get some information, and it was just like, okay, well, I'm seeing this or that. They wouldn't know because they weren't there if that was something they did or said or whatever. So that makes it rougher. But definitely the more in tune the person is that's seeking me out, the deeper the connection. I've also noticed that like with suicides, sometimes it's harder, because I'll take time and make a connection with somebody who's passed for, maybe a day or two beforehand, and sit with them. Like I get their picture and just kind of like tune into their energy. I'll read some runes, which I did not bring, but runes I've found are extremely effective when working with people who've passed, because runes are actually an alphabet. And also it's like one of the oldest like languages, and for some reason it's just very very helpful with like giving me a sense of like what they were kind of going through at the time. But people who have committed suicide, sometimes they're in such a gray funk that it takes me like a day or two just to cut through that haze to tune into their energy.
Get to their energy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and I've noticed that if I look at their picture and I work with them a little bit, and then I do something water related, whether it's shower or even like wash dishes where I can zone out a little bit, then I'll start getting pictures or hearing things.
Oh, wow. Do you, more often than not, is it more like image based things, or do you get a lot of people? Do you hear people talking, I guess, or voices or words of that? The words I get are, it's more just a word. And it's almost like it's coming from my own head. Like it doesn't have a specific voice that I can pin down. But I'll get a word, and then I'll get some pictures. And then I'll have to like, sometimes the word and the pictures aren't even related or connected. And then I'm sitting there going, okay. But then when I pass them on to the person that I'm meeting with, then they're like, oh, I get that, Wow.
So, yeah. Is
there, I don't know how much you're literally to like disclose to like certain people. I mean, you don't have to name anybody's names or anything like that, but is there like ever been maybe an example of this that almost shocked you, where like maybe you got something there like, these two things can't be, like this person's they're gonna be upset, and then you tell them what you found, and they're like, oh my God, that's exactly like that makes so much, and they kind of like you were saying, they're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. Maybe not like upsetting, but just kind of like very, it's hard doing this type of work and worrying that you're going to offend someone, or that the detail that you get is so trivial that you're like, oh, well, this seems really silly. But, it's about, they're asking if this person is like, okay, they passed on very suddenly. And I'm like, well, I see him like wiping down the sports car. And it's, some of the things are almost like, I guess they're like vines. Like that's the only thing I can compare them to. Old, but like a few seconds.
Yeah.
And so it's just like him like buffing out this sports car in this like suburban neighborhood. And then I got a picture of the guy's car when he was alive, and it was like the same color. It was very tricked out. It was
Wow.
like, yeah, just very, very cool when that stuff happens.
Oh, I'm sure. Are there like maybe some do's and don'ts for like trying to do this? 'Cause I feel like I feel like there could be some things that would like maybe mess up the whole kind of your process of trying to connect with somebody or like that. Is it more so just how open the person is who's reaching out to you, or are there some things that like maybe you have to do on your end, or
Oh,
that
yeah.
they need to do that?
I think
Yeah.
there's both. I think illicit substances from either party can mess with things. Like I know that I've had like medical things come up where I was on painkillers, and I'm getting people reaching out to me, and I'm like, you're gonna have to give me a couple days to let these painkillers wear off, because otherwise I can't help you. Like I'm completely cut off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just you have to be in the right frame of mind. And now there are some schools of thought that like if you're a little bit tired, that actually helps it a little bit. I don't know. I feel like I get more when I'm doing things with water. So I think it might come out differently for everybody.
Oh, okay. Are there things that you have to are there ways that you could mess it up, that like when you see like horror movies with like Ouija boards and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, don't do this, or there's all these like ritual things.
Yeah.
Are there things like that like could really throw things off, or could maybe if you were trying to connect with somebody or something, just completely like cut you off in that sense, other than obviously like painkillers and drugs and stuff like that you said?
Right. Well, and so you bring up a good point, because there's a difference. So there's a difference between like mediumship and having a session with a particular person about a particular person. And then there are like seances and things where it's a formal event. There are certain things you have to do. And you have to have like an invocation, and you have to like set the space, and that once the time frame is over, that you're trying to reach out and communicate, because you don't always know what you're going to get then. It's not like when you're directly connecting with one particular person. So then and there's like all kinds of, like when I work with groups, I'm like, we do grounding activities, we do protecting activities, we do invocations, like there's flower water, there's like all these things we do first before to kind of like set the groundwork so that only good things come through. And that's still, but you need to kind of then have like a sound, and you have to like declare it's over, and that kind of closes it so that things don't like, you don't take anything home with you.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
What's are there bad things, bad energies and things like that nature that you can then take home, I guess? Then
Yeah, well,
Okay.
one of the unexpected ones, this just happened recently. I was filming. I wasn't filming. I don't film. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was doing some voiceover work for some haunted places in McHenry County. And we went to the cemetery, and we were looking for this grave for, I think his name was Johnny Stompanato Jr. And he
that's a name.
he was an enforcer for the mob.
Okay.
And I got kind of drawn in because I actually grew up in Elmwood Park, which is like, there's a lot of mob activity there. It borders Harlem, and it's an interesting place. I loved it.
Storied place for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great. But anyway, so I was interested in like their family lineage, and I'm like going through like, oh, this grandfather is over here, and oh wait, they moved this person across the road, and look at this person, and oh, that must be like so-and-so's aunt. And like I got kind of involved.
Okay.
Which wasn't good, because I came back, and I think within maybe a day or two, I had some really dark thoughts. And this has happened before, like either through like energetic healings that I was tired and I didn't protect myself properly, or that I was doing a medium session with somebody and I let them in too soon. And then I started getting their thoughts. And like, especially with some of the suicide victims, their thoughts get really bad. And so I would have things happen where it's like, life isn't worth living. Like, but I would feel like it was mine.
Yeah.
And, but with this one, he was really a bad guy. And so I was getting thoughts that I can't even talk about.
Yeah.
That were like, Really, but they were coming, like, I thought they were coming from me, and I was so horrified, and like,
Wow.
I don't want to murder anyone. Like,
Yeah.
it was just like, I wonder what it would feel like to have somebody's life ooze out like that. It's just such a rush. I'm like, what? No.
Wow. Yeah. Holy
Oh my
shit.
God.
Okay.
And yeah, my heart was racing. It was really awful.
So what are the ways that, I mean, that's insane. What are the ways, like, that's crazy. I mean, in sort of a very mystical, spectacular way, and I guess in a dark way as well. What are some ways that you can protect yourself then when you're doing the work that you're doing?
Definitely like the grounding, kind of like, it sounds so like kind of silly, but the bubble of light, like, and just kind of you're in this light bubble and nothing bad can get through, only good things. And it protects you and it keeps you safe and you can get throughout your day. And I probably should have done that in the morning before going to the graveyard. But yeah, I was running late. I didn't.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about taking anybody back from the cemetery. I don't know why.
Yeah.
You'd think that was a
would feel like
no-brainer.
I feel like that would be the spot. Is there are there I'm curious too, because that's, especially, we feel, oh, cemeteries are spooky and stuff, and we with I mean, a lot of deceased people, and that makes sense, and there'd be some interesting energy there, but people, I guess in film and TV, there's kind of been different people that have represented like mediums or people that are in like a sort of mystic field. What is like something that you've maybe seen that was either so off or the closest that you could think to, like, oh, that's similar, that's actually doing it some sort of justice? Because I feel like everything's played up in, on Hollywood, obviously, but
Yeah.
has there ever been like a movie franchise or a TV show or something where you're like, this is a joke, like that's not how mediumship works, or
Yeah.
is it was something like that?
Well, I have two examples. One's a positive and one's a negative.
Okay.
So I'll do the negative one first. I I don't even know if because this show was popular, I think, in like early 2000s, maybe. Medium. It was on Channel 5.
Okay.
Patricia Arquette. You're like,
I haven't heard it. No.
I loved the show. It was great. But it was, so there was a woman who inspired the Alison Dubois character. She was the actual Alison Dubois, and she was like touring, and I was like so excited, and I bought VIP tickets, and I'm like, oh my God, like somebody who inspired a TV show, they must be amazing. I
Yeah.
can't wait. And yeah, it was awful. It was like one of the worst things I've ever seen. And she was sitting up there with like a pad of paper, and she's just scribbling, like scrawling. And she's like, I'm automatic writing. And I'm like, that's not how that works. Like, what are you doing? And then she was just like making like sweeping statements through the audience that were like, one of them was racist. Like, there was somebody of color, and they were like, yeah, I see your grandfather, and he's sitting on a porch, in the South, and he's like rocking in a chair, drinking his sweet tea. And I'm like horrified. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, so she was not the real deal. I don't like, a lot of times with that, it's like who you know, or like other things that are going on.
Are you able to feel, like, is there any feeling of energy that you're able to, because I feel like maybe there would be from an outside perspective that knows nothing, but like if there were two people like of similar, like you guys are both mediums or something like that, is there like an energy that you would be able to like feel from them, or like they have it too? It's like the Force in Star Wars. Like,
Well,
I can like, okay, you have it, I know you don't have it. Okay.
And that actually speaks to my second reference, which is positive. Like, but do they have the shining? Like, can you pick up on that? And I don't know if I've ever really, like, I've met people that were intuitive, where your heart feels just kind of like warmer, like by meeting them. I haven't really spoken to many mediums weirdly, so I don't know for certain about that, but energy is hugely important. And that was why I was thinking like my positive example would be like The Shining, because there's so many layers to energy, and like ghosts and spirits are just one of those things. And the energy of a geographic location is actually way more intense and interesting than any like one person.
Wow.
So, and what can happen in a situation like that is people can be drawn to the place. And so, you'll have something resonating at either a really low vibrating energy, something really like kind of evil, or something like really positive, like Chichen Itza or Machu Picchu. And, people will be drawn to those places based on who they are as a person or where they're vibrating at. So, like, if they're kind of evil themselves, they'll be drawn to these negative places.
Huh.
And so then, you have like these atrocities occurring, and then you like start noticing that like in this one particular geographic location, a number of atrocities have occurred over a period of time. And that's when like, wow, it's the energy of the space. And those people are just that's adding to it.
Is there, so now I saw too that you do offer sort of like an energy cleansing in like spaces too. Obviously, something that like a crazy maybe like burial ground or something from like years and years ago that's like people were tortured and killed or whatever, like you're not gonna go in probably and be able to just like clear some field by yourself or something like that, but like you can go into, how does that work with the cleansing of spaces? Like if I was having energy issues here or something and I was like, okay, can we do that? How would we go about doing that?
Okay, so there's like a couple layers to that. Like one of them is I'll just explain like how a clearing would kind of like why you would do a clearing. But then there's like reasons why that would not be effective. So usually like if somebody died in the house, if you just were going through a divorce and the other person moved out, if somebody was like really sick there, or if somebody keeps getting sick there, and a lot of times an energy clearing will like help get out like any like residual gunk. Usually it's from like past experiences and just kind of like making sure that stuff is like cleared out. Anything that's like continuing to happen is not going to be really effective with an energy clearing. So say you go through a divorce, but then the spouse stays living in the house, you could like clear the energy till the cows come home, but like
they're going to keep they're coming back to sleep at the same place.
Right.
So the energy's still going to be there.
Yeah. And you also have to kind of look at the energy of the location. So if it's something that you can't fix, so even like with an Indian burial ground, the question becomes like, what came first? Like, was it a place of power and then they were drawn to put the Indian burial ground there? Or did they put the Indian burial ground there and then, you just ended up building on top of it, or different things? Like, it can kind of affect whether you're able to clear it, or if you just have to designate it as a space that is just not going to, you can't write any like energy. The energy flows in the earth in certain patterns, and you're never going to be able to change that. If a place is negative energy. Yeah.
Is there any places that maybe you've been personally that it's negative energy where it's like, this is, I need to get out of here. Can't be here. Can't stay here.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What is that like? Is it someone like yourself that's more like maybe in tune with it? Is it like an overwhelming? How would you describe it?
It will drive you mad over time.
Okay.
It can come out in a bunch of different ways. It really depends on the person who's experiencing it, what's going on in their lives at the time. But it could drive somebody crazy. It could drive somebody to kill somebody else. It can drive somebody to go just keep getting really sick, kill themselves. Like there's a lot of different things, abuse kids, like anything, if the energy is off. But a lot of times it is just very intense, crazy making energy.
Oh, wow. It seems, just in the way you're describing it, that it's, I'm sure there's probably plenty of places even in a single state that are, negative areas. And I think it's interesting and almost a little scary in a way. Like, how do we, is that what the importance of kind of creating that light bubble then, I guess, for yourself at the beginning of the day, is so that like, if I venture into a place like that by mistake, that I be all right afterwards? Or
yeah, I think that especially with negative energy places, the more time you spend in them, the more damage it does. So if you walk in and you spend a day there, you're probably going to be fine. But if you spend weeks there or months or years, it gets worse.
Is there a place that you would like, are there commonly maybe even patterns of like maybe a place that you've seen a few times, where not the same place but similar places that are often negative energy?
Oh, God. Well, like abandoned prisons? Or
yeah, maybe, abandoned hospitals, psych wards or something like that.
I would say probably the worst, because I can even feel things like there's a lot of things with distance as far as like the work that I do. So distance healings, like, because energy's energy. It doesn't matter if you're in the same physical location as the person you're working with.
That would make sense, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even just from someone who is learning about this now, that makes sense to me, I guess. Is there anything about, sort of learning about energies and being able to maybe try and connect with people or the other side, or another, I guess, I don't know what you would describe it as, another world, I guess you said earlier. What's like the most difficult part about kind of what you do in any one of the things that you do, because you do a number of things?
Yeah. Well, and that's weird. It's weird because I work with energy, and so it seems like it's all unrelated, but it's all like different pieces of the same puzzle.
From what you're describing, it seems holistic, where it's like this is over here, this is over here, this is over here, but they all kind of come together. That's who we are. It's energy almost.
So basically with energy, there's energy like within yourself, like the chakras, and then there's the energy that you have in relationships with another person. There's the energy in your environment, and there's even energy from, your name, your given name, the energy of the year that you're in. So there's all these layers of energy that impact you.
Yeah.
But okay, so what was the question?
Just the most difficult. What's the hardest part about trying to do what you do, and kind of doing the services that you provide? Like, what's the most difficult thing, or something that makes it hard, I guess?
I think
I'm sure there's challenges that you're going through on this stuff.
Yeah, and it really depends on the type of thing that I'm working with, but I would say, like, just with medium work, depending on how the person passed, it can be, and just making sure that I protect myself, whatever kind of energy work I'm doing, because otherwise, I can feel it.
Yeah, that would make sense, I guess. And you mentioned that you haven't really talked to any other mediums yet. Would you ever speak to another medium? Can you, if something, like, let's say something happened, and hopefully it never would, but something were to happen to somebody that maybe you would want those same things that you kind of help other people with.
Yeah.
Would you be able to do that yourself, or is that something where, like, you can't, how almost like if I'm a therapist, like I can't be my own therapist,
like physician heal thyself kind of.
Yeah.
Weird. I think part of it is just like the whole hindsight is 2020 thing. So, like the Matrix, where they have like the glitch in the Matrix, you can spot like, oh, the cat went through again,
Yeah.
There's things like that happen in daily life the same way. That's kind of how the universe communicates with us, is through synchronicity and signs and symbols. And so, for me especially, I've noticed over the years that, like, sometimes right when something really awful is going to happen, there are very graphic depictions of just odd things that are completely out of place, that are like pretty disturbing, but you can't put your finger on why. And
they're just jarring. Yeah. I mean, well, that's, I don't know if there's any truth in this saying that people always say, death comes in like 3 or something like that. Is that kind of along the same lines, where it's like you're seeing all these sort of patterns where it's like negative things are just happening over and over again, or and vice versa, positives? Is it kind of similar?
Well, I mean, and that's like, you also then add the layer of energy that is your particular culture. So if you come from a culture where that is kind of the belief system, you have that. And I don't know like how much people out there like know about the collective unconscious, but the collective unconscious is like anything and everything that anybody's experienced over the course of time that contributes to our brain every day. And
all of us. Oh, okay.
And it's really, and that's just from psych. But so if you come from a culture though where that kind of thing was something that you thought about, then that would definitely be a way that the universe would communicate with you, and it's more possible that you would notice things like deaths in threes or whatever.
That's interesting. So it's almost like, so you said it's sort of culturally grounded in some cultural almost not bias, but just kind of viewpoint, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like, depending on what you believe, it's sort of similar. I feel like there's some parallel there to like manifestation then, where it's like if that's what I believe and that's what I'm thinking is whether it's death comes in threes, then I'm gonna see that more. Almost like when is it similar to like if I want this new car and I'm looking, when you want a new car and then all of a sudden you only see that car when you're driving, it's like what the fuck is going on? Like I just looked up, I googled one Tesla, and now all I see is Teslas, and they're electric. It's ridiculous. No one's driving them, but now I'm seeing them everywhere. I feel like it's a similar thing with that. So you mentioned, we talked earlier, you brought some crystals and whatnot.
Yes.
How can we do anything with this today? Is there anything that I don't know how that works, where like I'm just drilling you with questions. Can we do anything with that?
Yeah, we can do crystals, and actually if you hand me a piece of paper and a pen, I can do your numerology really quick.
Okay, what is numerology? What is that all about?
So it's
There's the picture.
kind of the way the universe communicates to us through numbers, and that the numbers tell a story. So they only go 1 through 9, but they tell this story about like how the energy of something beginning, and then kind of the partnerships you need to form to make that idea come to fruition, and then that idea comes to fruition, and then you kind of get locked into this kind of like stable mode because it's like working for you. But then you start to get bored, so then you shake things up with a little bit of chaos going. What can I do next?
Yeah.
And then things kind of settle down again, and you start to go, okay, well now I need to really focus on the home and family, because like things were kind of crazy. And then you need to go within, because it's like, well, I've been spending too much time with home and family, and I've got to figure out what I really want.
Yeah.
And then you do figure out what you really want, and then you go to work to attain those goals. And then you attain the goals, and you realize, like Bill Gates, that, maybe you want to give back and be more humanitarian. So that is the journey of the numbers. And it can affect you in all kinds of different ways. But that's 1 through 9. 1 is being new beginnings. And 9 is that kind of, it's also an energy of clearing things out and like getting rid of things for the new cycle, what no longer serves.
Wow. Holy cow. So there's a lot in there then.
There
Okay.
is. It's fantastic. I love it.
So how do I help participate in this then?
Okay, so just if you don't want to say your birth date on the air, you can.
It's fine with me. November 3rd.
Okay, but you have to give me the year. So if you want to.
Gotcha. It doesn't matter to me. People.
Okay. Some people are particular about that.
No, it's all right. I've kind of just put it all out there. So
All right.
I'm here, guys. That's you guys can do the math.
You're wait. Oh my. 19. Oh my God.
1998. How old did you think I was?
I don't know.
I was, it was messed up. I was told I would look like 30 the other day. Like in one of those like Snapchat photos. They said I was like 34, and I was like, damn. I'm 23.
You're an old soul. It's all good. All
Oh,
right.
man.
So I have to just make sure because my contacts are like acting up. So I'm like, am I looking at this right? Is that a 9? That's a 9. 1998.
Yeah.
Okay, then. just keep going. Just go to my special place for a minute. Okay. All right. 2, 3,
Crazy.
1. All right. So what I'm doing is a process called reduction. And so, I mean, if you feel the need to like talk about anything while I do this
I'm
and calculate.
She's writing. I'm gonna just kind of play by play. She's writing on the paper. It looks like several numbers kinda going down the list.
Boatload of numbers.
Tons of numbers. Before we started today too, we did. I'm already forgetting the name of the rods that you mentioned. There were
Dowsing rods.
Dowsing rods, and they can kind of show. It was aura, right? We were looking.
Yes,
at
we
aura,
were. Yeah.
the size of aura, and apparently this YouTube channel has blown up my aura. It's out of this world now. I've become too big headed, and you guys gotta calm down. But please do like and subscribe, because I also need money. So please.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, so this is. I'm excited for this. I'm very excited. McKenna too. I know McKenna's had some. You're mic'd up back there. I know you've had some interesting perspectives. She follows a medium on social media, and is somewhat not obsessed, but just very curious about a lot of the stuff. Anything we've been talking so far that I maybe forgot? I know we've had conversations about it, and she was really excited that I was talking to someone who was a medium. So is there anything that I haven't gotten to yet that you're curious about?
Yeah, like this medium I follow on TikTok. I don't know. It's the TikTok medium. I don't know how accurate it is. But like she sometimes will just like be in the grocery store, or she goes to the doctor's office or something and can see messages that she feels compelled that she has to, tell people. Like, does that ever happen to you when you're just like in a store or?
Yeah, I mean, there are certain things, and then like half the time it's awkward, or a lot of times too, I'll pick up on somebody's energy or like pick up on stuff that they're going through, and then it'll come out sideways because I'll make some sort of what I think is a random comment, and then it turns out to be just completely horrifying to them, and they're like, oh well, my significant other is on dialysis, so that's not funny. And it's like, I make a joke about selling a kidney because things got too expensive, and what I mean, like stupid things. But like, yeah, I mean, all kinds of random because when you're kind of in tune and picking up on psychic messages, at least for me, and this could be different for everybody, but sometimes I can't sort out what's mine and what's somebody else's. So I mean, I was like thinking that I was going to get a new car, and I started researching this particular type of new car, and I spent, like several weeks on it. And then I find out my next door neighbor just bought one of those new cars.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah, that's very weird.
yeah. And I got sad because I'm like, I don't get a new car. This wasn't me.
Yeah. Oh man.
So yeah, it comes out a little bit weird sometimes.
Makes sense.
Okay. So yeah, it looks like your life path number is a 5 and you're a Scorpio. And I think I just worked with somebody who had that exact combination.
Okay.
So being a Scorpio, you're kind of an independent water sign. And then you have a life path number of a 5, which is all about like independence and kind of like making your own path. So those actually play really well together. And then as far as this year is concerned, which you just had a birthday, so like the energy of the next 12 months for you is going to be, because it goes from birthday to birthday, is you're going into a 1-year cycle. So it's all about like new ideas, new beginnings, like anything that you're kind of like playing with in your mind. Like those are things that have the possibility to actually manifest in a couple years, but it'll take a couple years a lot of times.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. That's super cool. And all that from just my birthday.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But this is kind of if you're aware, it's better, because then you can kind of harness that one energy and just be like, all right, like what do I want? Like what kinds of new projects do I want to like get into, or like, whatever.
Yeah. Just
start really putting it out there, because as a water sign, you'll start getting intuitive messages about what you need to do, and you'll have that internal guidance to push you in the right direction.
Yeah. Wow. That's very interesting. Especially, I feel like I'm always juggling several. I mean, I'm actually starting several new things currently, so that's really cool. That's very interesting. That's super cool. I was curious when you were mentioning about the the grocery store question that we kind of asked. Do you like, maybe just even in passing, or maybe as you're talking to people, I feel like with what you do, you probably have like a considerable amount of like empathy for, like, I mean, you literally you're having the thoughts that other people are having. So like, are you able to like, does that make it easier or harder, I guess, with like your life aside from being a medium? Because I feel like I feel like sometimes I get this weird thing sometimes where I can like see somebody having a really bad day, and like I don't know them at all. I've not spoken to this person. I can see like whether somebody cut them in line, and I can just see the way that it like really hurt them, and somewhat like something else is going on that that just little thing really pushed them over, and I can just see them like kind of dwelling on it, and I get really sad about that. But I'm sure for someone like yourself, little things like that, or maybe deeper things, are probably amplified. I was curious like how that affects you. Yeah. Well, I mean, and then it's about putting up boundaries, because it's really easy to like give too much of yourself. Like you're feeling everybody's pain all the time, and it does like make things easier as a medium, and with all the work that I do, because I'll see somebody across the room who's like looking a certain way that I can't even describe sometimes, and I'll go over that to them, and I'll start talking to them about a specific thing, and then it comes out that is like the thing that they're struggling with. And so then they get then I can usually give them some sort of like solution or something to try, or like a website to visit. Like there's a reason why
we connect with certain people, or we're drawn to certain people at certain times, and it's usually to communicate a message from the universe or somebody's spirit guide or whatever. So
Wow.
we're like the vessel to pass on that info.
The messenger, as you mentioned earlier today.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Wow. And so we kind of got we touched on a lot of bases here, and I've learned that I have to continue starting, or I am starting a bunch of new stuff, and should maybe pursue that.
Yeah.
You've got is there some stuff here that you wanted to get into? I know we were going to do the crystals.
Yeah.
How does one go about this? What are the crystals, these specific ones, for? I guess we could start there.
Okay. My bag of crystals is just kind of a way to, I get more of a picture as to like what energies somebody is like needing in their life. And it's just like, I don't know how many people actually do this method. This was just something that I came up with over the years because I'm like a rock hound. It's not the most efficient way to do it, probably, because it's heavy.
Yeah. And you're carrying it around with the bag, all the other goodies.
Like dragging it everywhere, but I can't like not bring it somewhere. So so just like, and this was my other question though, because you like brought up the crystals, and it was interesting because there's like all these things that I spread out on the table, but you were like, the crystals, and maybe it's because it was closest to you, but I just kind of like wonder, with you being a water sign, like, are you drawn to certain things? Because that makes it interesting too. But okay, I'm going to push the crystals. Okay. So don't look, but just reach into the bag and grab a crystal. Okay. Now put it down, and you're going to do that.
Set it down outside of the bag?
Yeah. Two more times. I usually work with 3. I don't know why. That's just my thing.
Okay. Number 2.
All right.
Let's get a third one. And number 3. Okay.
Okay.
That way. Cool.
All right. So I find it funny.
There you go.
Okay. I'm just trying to like not use
it's
this, like,
a lot of
robotic
things in our way.
arm.
So it is what it is. We're playing around. Do you need me to hand these to you?
Just this one, because I think it's smoky, but I like, okay. Sometimes from So you have you picked lapis and sodalite and smoky quartz. And
Damn, how do you have that? Do you have that stuff memorized? Like, I'm just looking at it. Like this one's which one?
lapis.
This is lapis.
Yeah.
This is the smoky quartz.
Yeah.
I imagine. And then this is, what was the other one?
Sodalite.
Sodalite. That's what you said.
It's the poor man's lapis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they used to sell it as such. So like they would lie. But here,
Okay.
I'm going to pass them back to you for a second. But just kind of like, just feel like which one, if you could grab one and hold it for a minute, what do you feel most drawn to?
I feel there's one of these two. I don't really know. I mean, I guess I'll go with this one.
All right, it's okay. It's just, don't worry about it.
Okay, you want me to set it back down?
No, you can hold it.
Oh, okay.
And that actually might be helpful too. It's like pick them up one at a time and just see what you feel from them, because all the different crystals vibrate at their own different energetic frequencies. And so you're kind of drawn to particular ones to kind of complement the energies that are kind of coursing through you right now, and like what will kind of balance that energy. But like, so when you touch them, do you feel like a difference, like touching the lapis, say, than touching the smoky quartz?
Yeah. I don't know what that difference is, but I definitely, there's something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like, so if you could use a word to describe, like when you pick up, say, the smoky, if you could use a word that you're like feeling right now, holding it, what would it be?
Smooth. But I mean, that's just the texture of it, I guess. I don't know. But
Okay.
yeah,
like an internal like feeling.
Probably, I guess, like clarity, I guess. I don't know if that's a feeling.
You're just reaching.
I really am.
You're still trying to analyze it.
I'm
okay.
just, yeah. I
And
feel like I'm looking into it too deep.
That's why those are fun though, because like just close your eyes for a minute and you just hold it, and you're just like being with it. Like you're just like making friends with it. And that's why these things are awesome, because like if you spend some time with these, like you'll start to realize that they are different people, they do different jobs, and they're all amazing. But like there's some times when you're like, yeah, I really just need the lapis right now. Like this rose quartz is not going to cut it.
There's times where you think these thoughts in your head, or you're like, man, I really need to just hold this one for a little bit.
Wait. I think I've got, can I reach down and get, okay,
Yeah.
I got the best. I forgot. I was doing this I used him for my seance. I forgot he was in here.
What is that? Is this an animal?
No. No.
Oh, whoa.
It's my lapis skull.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Wow, that's is it? So is this like? This is solid. Wow.
Yeah. It's carved lapis. It's
Holy cow.
amazing.
That's
yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
That
Total
is-
artisan work.
Yeah, that is pretty sweet.
Yeah, good times. I love that guy. We're best buds. But and so those are two, and so lapis comes in grades. A lot of these stones come in grades, but you
Yeah.
can see that that's a higher grade than that one. Look at how blue it is.
Yeah.
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 So but yeah, they all like give you different like energies, and I have a ton of jewelry also. Like and people are like, you know, oh, you just really like jewelry, like you're really like, you know, surfacey or whatever. But it's like, no, it's because like it's all different stones, and there are like days where I just really need this on my body. So that's, you know, it is what it is. But
Wow. So there are like, I mean, if I were to gain a higher level of understanding when it comes to like this stuff, then there would be benefits of knowing what to use when I'm feeling a certain way or something.
Right,
like that.
right.
Or
Well,
you would kind of have like an intuition almost.
yeah, I mean, you can pull some out just to see the difference in like the types. But so you pulled out like the blue ones are very throat chakra related, and throat chakra is communication. And so it could just
This
be
makes
that
sense.
you were driven
Yeah.
to pick those because of what we're doing currently, or because that is kind of an overarching theme in your life, and it could be some of both. Then the smoky quartz is about grounding, and so I mean, and some protection and stuff. And so you just kind of, especially like when you're communicating a lot, I think sometimes at least I need to be grounded some when I'm doing all that, because it can be a little bit exhausting. Like your mind is constantly going, there's all this stuff, you know, you can get overstimulated or get on a tangent. And so the grounding is very complimentary.
Yeah. Oh wow. So it's all these got their own thing. What's this guy like? This one's cool.
So that's Mangano calcite.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's very soft and loving and nurturing. And, you know, a lot of the pink stones will have, they're like love crystals, but in different ways. So,
Wow.
yeah. And you actually picked up a tektite, I think.
This one?
Yeah. That's like the byproduct of when a meteorite hits the earth.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
And-
say it feels similar to like I don't know if igneous, like an igneous
Yeah.
rock or
Yeah.
something
It's
like
the
that,
same kind of process where
Yeah.
it's a byproduct of this extreme
Oh, wow.
situation.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's sweet. So when you do something with this, like what are the benefits of people like picking the crystals and trying to like interpret why they're picking what, I guess, or why they're drawn to what?
I usually have them pick them first before I read any cards or anything. Like I'll have them pick some crystals, and then we'll start with some lighter like oracle cards and stuff, and kind of set a little bit of a vibe. They are also really good for representing the energy of the person and protecting the energy of the person during the reading, so that, you know, whatever comes out is in their best interest. And those, then whatever they pick is attuned to that energy that they are feeling in the moment. And that's why you get like different crystals. But it can also like cue me in as to like seeing that, oh, hey, you know, somebody is really like out of balance. They might be struggling with their health because I'm seeing these crystals come out, or they are, you know, it just really depends on the
Am I struggling with my health by
No.
these rocks? Okay, I just curious.
No, but if there's a lot of root chakra stuff like red stones and garnet and stuff, there's like, you know, safety and security issues going on. If there's like orange stones, then sometimes it could be like a creativity block. It could be issues with their sexuality. Like there's just a lot there.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So and we don't have to do a whole like session thing for me, you know, but if I had just done this, like, and we were going to do somewhat of a session, like
Right.
what would the next thing be? Like after I've picked some of the crystals out,
Yeah.
What would I be doing next to help you kind of be in tune with my energy, I guess?
Well, and I have like a bunch of tools at my disposal, because some of it is kind of depends on
I'm sure it depends on the
intuitively
person.
like what I'm picking up on, like what they need, and like the best way to get that information. But, you know, usually, and I have other oracle decks. I brought the animal oracles, but I would do kind of an animal or some sort of oracle thing to kind of also just give me a sense as to, you know, what's going on big picture wise and something that you may be struggling with. So I mean, do you want to pull an animal card?
I would be. Yeah. Would we be able to figure out something I'm struggling with? That would be interesting. That would be. We're sharing here today.
It's
on the podcast. You guys are gonna get to see what's messing with my head.
it's a safe space.
Oh yeah, I'm good with it. Totally good with it.
So,
Do you mind showing just
Yeah.
the camera what the just kind of the deck looks like by
Yeah.
itself, or even the box, either or?
I'll show the box and then I'll show the.
Yeah.
I don't
yeah, so
even
you
know.
can show this one right
Oh,
here. Yeah. Sweet. That's super cool.
all right. So it's Dr. Farmer, PhD, Power
Mhm.
Animal Cards,
Wow.
and he apparently is partial to the some sort of cougar because that's what's on the front.
Yeah. Okay.
So, although there's a wolf on the informational book, so I would think that would repeat, but maybe he has two favorites.
That makes sense. So, how do you learn this process of being able to do this?
Well,
That's probably a layered question. I'm
I
sure.
no. I mean, like some of it, like it is a multi-layered question because it's like, okay, do I have all of the Power Animal Oracle card meanings memorized? No. Do I have all of the, tarot card meanings memorized? Yes. Do I have all the reverse meanings memorized? Yes. So 150 or whatever more. I can't keep track of the number, but
Yeah.
78 times 2 meanings. I know all that, but like these, I end up kind of fluctuating between decks, and their stuff is kind of, they write some stuff about it, so I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna bother remembering all that.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, I think it just depends on if you have psychic abilities or tendencies. If you're intuitive, you're going to be drawn to different types of tools, and you need to kind of honor that. And sometimes you'll go through phases where okay, it's a rune phase, and that's all I'm going to be doing for people, and I'll be sprinkling in some crystals, and I'll be doing whatever. Or, I'm going to be doing a lot of pendulum work for a while. Like, it really depends.
How do you become more? Because I feel like how do you become more in tune with your intuition? I guess for maybe an average, just everyday person. Because I feel like, basing it off our conversation we've had so far, I feel like it's come up a lot is your intuition and some of the benefits of sort of following that.
Yeah.
I feel like I sometimes maybe have conflict with that, as I'm sure everybody does in some way.
Mhm.
How would you suggest people that are listening or watching maybe try to become more in tune with their intuition?
Well, there are several things that I think can be really helpful. One of them is to start a synchronicity journal.
What's that?
I know.
What is that?
Because the universe communicates to us in symbols like all the time, and so just like anytime something happens that you think is like random, or if you have, this funny thing happened and then I keep seeing this thing everywhere, or like somebody sees a picture of a certain type of, I don't know, mountain lion, and then they're gifted a mountain lion statue, and then this book comes that they have to read, and it has a mountain lion on the cover. Like, that kind of stuff can become important. So start writing it down. You don't always know where it'll go, but
Yeah.
then you have reference, and then as you do it more, you are able to like hone in on it more, and you start getting more useful information from it. And it's just fun to go, oh, this did make sense. This did connect. Like
It's
one
like
time.
following the omens almost.
Yes.
I read that's one of the few books that I've read in the last year and some change was The Alchemist. I don't know if you've read that ever.
Oh
but
gosh, it's been years.
yeah, but I really loved it. It was actually an artist that I really really enjoy and follow his stuff. He recommended reading it, and so I read it recently. But
Yeah.
that sounds exactly like what you're talking about. Is paying attention to the omens and kind of becoming closer when you're doing. I forget how the book kind of sums it up, but it was like as you're following your intuition more and you're doing whatever it was that the universe is sort of wanting you to do, that's how you're becoming one with the universe. Was somewhat of the I'm butchering it right now, but that's what it was, I guess, kind of.
Oh yeah. And
of the
I mean,
story, at least.
it can cause some very rewarding things to happen. It can also save your life. Like, it saved my life on multiple occasions to be able to understand what the universe was trying to communicate so I could do something different and save myself. But there was one particular instance that I was, it was very odd, and it took about a year and a half to unfold. But I kept getting signs about the Ring of Fire. So I would keep hearing the song. I kept reading books that would make references to a Ring of Fire in different ways. There were just like so many things where I just kept coming across the Ring of Fire over and over and over.
Mhm.
And I had this like sense of impending doom. And I can't remember right now because this was like 10, 15 years ago, but those two things connected, I think that it was partially because when I started to realize, like, I got the sense that maybe I would die on Christmas of this particular year. Like, I don't know why I was getting that, but I was really terrified. And then I looked up like where the moon cycle was going to be on that particular day, and it was going to be a full moon. And I don't know if it was like a particular type of full moon that was like not, but there were a lot of other things that were going to occur that don't normally occur together. And I was just like terrified, and I was like convinced, and I kept getting these signs about the Ring of Fire, hearing the song on the radio, like all this stuff. And I was writing it down because it was just too weird. And so the one, it comes to be Christmas, and I think I'm going to die. I don't know how or why. I feel healthy, and I'm terrified to go to bed, but I go to sleep and I wake up and I'm fine. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
No biggie,
It's
right?
anticlimactic. Yeah.
Except that when I get up, I find out that the tsunami just hit and killed 260,000 people, and it happened in the Ring of Fire.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Holy
So
shit. Yeah. That's awful.
but that's something that I carried with me for like a year and a half, and I couldn't explain it. And like as it got closer, I was feeling more and more upset and terrified and
angst and
Yeah.
a lot of a slur of emotion, like it's just a plethora of stuff coming at you. That's insane.
it was really crazy. And so that's why I'm like, whether it seems kind of nuts or not, keep writing it down, because sometimes those patterns do take a long time to unfold. But like if you can have some sort of like, way to log it, then you can go back and go, oh, okay, I am starting to pay attention.
Yeah.
And
then you're able to maybe realize things, sooner as they're maybe happening.
right. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. That's really incredible. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I felt terrible. I really did. But and those are the kinds of situations where you're picking up on energy, but you can't do anything to stop it. Like, and I think that that's where the guilt comes in sometimes, where it's like, man, I just feel.
And it
really
is a
bad.
lot like an ocean wave in general, where it's like you see it coming, like a tsunami, like you can see coming for however many miles away, and that's kind of scary. You can't do anything about it. So
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's very much some the universe was telling you something. So
I was just picking up on a major event where people, like when a lot of people are going to die,
yeah.
sometimes you'll start getting waves of it like way beforehand.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not the only person that's ever happened to. I think you can look it up, and there's even things like Mothman, where I think people like in certain towns were picking up and seeing Mothman before like these calamities happened. And it was just like,
what's Mothman?
oh,
I'm like,
that was like one of the coolest.
sounds very familiar.
The East Coast. I think there's a movie called Mothman. Like
Yeah.
if you watch it, it pretty much sums up what had happened. But people were like, they thought they were seeing it places. People were drawing it. Like it was just, and I don't know. I can't remember if there was like some sort of cultural belief that, that person existed already, and that when you see him, something bad is going to happen. But yeah. And then I think a bridge collapsed and killed a bunch of people.
Jesus, yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah.
Mothman, I gotta write that down. Check that out. That's crazy.
It's crazy. But anyways, intuition journals, majorly helpful, and also just kind of like going to a metaphysical store, playing with some different crystals, even picking one off the internet, but like something that you can hold and sit with, and just kind of like let your mind just kind of like connect with whatever comes up. It could be fun.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, it sounds very interesting. There's so many different things to do with all of it. So
I
it's
know,
kinda
it's
crazy.
great.
Okay, so we're here. We've got the cards.
Got the
okay,
cards,
what do I have to do here to help this be successful?
All you have to do is really just think about like, what do you need in your life right now?
And now, am I thinking of that question, or am I thinking of what I need in my life actually?
Don't ever do that.
Okay.
Because then you're like limiting yourself based
Okay.
on what you can come up with versus what the universe can give you.
So just the question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, a la The Secret. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of think about what do you need in your life right now. And when you feel ready, just tell me when to stop.
Okay.
This is not my typical shuffling setup. Sorry. They're like going everywhere. Oh, help me.
All right, you're good.
I'm good. All right. Yeah, they're kind of like flipping around. Sorry. All right.
No, it's all good.
Okay, so what I'm going to do. Sorry.
No, I got you. What's
I'm
up?
like passing them. Take your, no, left hand. Left hand.
Left hand?
Okay.
Okay.
And then cut 3 piles to the left.
Cut, 3 different piles. Doesn't matter the size of them?
Nope.
Okay.
Nobody cares about that.
Okay.
You were just getting your energy on them and whatnot. All right.
Okay, so
Sure.
that's 3 piles, or should I do a 3rd pile then?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, cool.
That's just, yeah. All right. And I'm trying to pick them up with my left hand.
Why specifically with the left hand?
Okay, so the left hand is kind of that feminine, intuitive energy, and it has a deeper connection to the spirit realm.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Okay, I'm trying to. That actually is very fitting for where you're at in your cycle.
Okay. We've got. Is this?
You're like-
am I allowed to show them
Yeah.
what's going on? Okay, so we got a seal here.
Yes, show the
Seal.
seal and read what the
Seal.
seal says.
Seal. It says imagination under it. It says immerse yourself in artistic and creative expression. Wow.
There you
That
go.
makes some sense. That makes a lot of sense.
And I'm going to read you more about what the seal does, but just for like to illustrate how, different the messages are. You have things like clear out the clutter.
Frog here is purification. Clear out the clutter. We got
Yeah,
this guy right here.
turtle is stop trying to make something happen. That's kind of a smackdown from the universe.
Yeah, that's really telling you like it is. Retreat.
This one is actually really helpful for when people are like they're either thinking of like a career pivot or something like that. It's the monkey. You can read that one.
Okay, the monkey is ingenuity. Is that what? Yeah, I think I can read. The situation calls for adaptability and innovation. Wow.
Yeah. So you can see though that it really, and this one is porcupine. I'm just giving one more. Porcupine is innocence. So the fact that you got the seal.
How could you not see that as innocent? That's.
I-
I've never seen a porcupine in real life, though. On a side note, I've never seen one in with my own eyes, not through TV. So
Like,
or a
have you
picture.
been any zoos or?
I don't. I mean, not since I was maybe like in grade school, like in 4th grade or something. So
Okay.
not cultured, I guess. haven't checked out the zoo anytime recently.
Oh wait, if that's how we're defining culture by like
That's
going to the
right.
zoo. I'm
Yeah.
just-
That's where you need to be. That's where it's happening.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so seal. I'm like, what letter does seal start with? They're in alphabetical. And yeah, my contacts are a little bit iffy. So like if I just kind of go, you'll know why. All right. So it's about imagination. And your subconscious mind is the playground of your imagination, which waits to be called out by your willingness to unleash the bonds of personal convention and societal restraint, to challenge and surpass the usual limits you've placed on yourself regarding artistic expression. So definitely, since you're in a 1 year and new ideas and new beginnings, this is like a perfect fit. This means nothing less than to release your familiar sense of identity and stretch the boundaries of your creative mind. It's not a matter of believing or disbelieving that you have talent for any kind of creative pursuits. It's a matter of surrendering to the imaginative impulse that's beginning to be expressed in some form. So drop underneath those restrictive beliefs and tap into this most natural drive towards creative artistic expression. Perhaps something that you've always wanted to do, but stopped yourself until now. Feel it in all its depth and dimensions and throw yourself into it. And so adaptation, playfulness, and grace. So just out of curiosity, though, like, is there something that you kind of either dabbled with but didn't think that you were able to kind of like do that sort of thing, or something that you like, do you feel in some ways that you are kind of in a box as far as like who you are or how, your family or your kind of living situation defines?
Yes, I'd say a little bit, and I'd say too, even on the creative sense too. I think I sort of pivoted where I was doing a lot of different things when I first like kind of started doing like media, I guess, and started my company and everything, and as I had sort of, I don't know, things happened where certain relationships didn't work out with people that I was kind of working with several people to work on all these separate projects at the same time, and certain things that I definitely want to do sort of got put on the back burner, and I kind of had to scale things back. But I've been actually, we're starting a couple of new things here in like the next few weeks, which is pretty interesting. So that's weird. It's very weird. So
Well, it is fun working with water signs too, because I
Yeah.
think they're very connected to that messaging.
so are there you mentioned, so water signs maybe have that. Are there signs that aren't as connected?
I mean, there's the issue is, again, like, looking at just the 12 signs on their face.
There's
You
other
can't.
things.
Yeah, there's so many other things. But I mean, somebody who's more earthy may not always connect to that intuitive sense because they're more practical. They're more grounded. They're,
Oh, okay.
more like day to day.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel like I'm sometimes I get lost in my head. I feel like just like thinking about like what is going to happen or what can happen. So that's probably, it's a good thing and a bad thing, I think. But
Well, it would be interesting to find out what your moon sign is, because there might be some air floating around in there. I know I'm an Aquarius moon, and that's a moon sign, and it's like a lot of times moon signs are drawn to communicative pursuits. So like,
how do you figure out your moon sign? Is that
well, there's like a whole bunch of like online, you can type in free birth chart or things like that,
Yeah.
and you can get everything calculated. You just need to know like your birth time and your place of birth.
okay?
So
Oh, there's I wanted to ask you too. I saw pretty recently, maybe a few weeks back, there was something on the news that was saying that, and I saw people getting very upset about it, that they were like moving some official, I don't know who is deciding this, was moving the dates for like your signs was like rotating. It was like slightly moving them by a couple of weeks.
yeah.
And people were going crazy about it on
Yeah.
social media that I know. So I was curious to get your opinion on that.
I know, like, I saw that like come up every so often for the last few years. It's not a thing. Like,
Okay, just
yeah.
to stir the pot a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. I was always I'm curious because I'm like, how does that work? We're just
Yeah.
gonna change what everything is. That
You
doesn't
just
make,
flip it all around.
yeah. Let's
Yeah.
just change the names of the months too while we're at it. That would,
Chaos and anarchy.
yeah, pretty much. Wow, so that's super cool. Let me give you back these so I don't hold on to these for forever. Is there anything that we didn't get to? I know we're over an hour at this point.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we didn't get to yet that you really want to let the people of Detox or anybody listening that's watching this days after know?
Oh my gosh. I think just that there's like to kind of appreciate the role that energy plays in your life, and that there's so much, whether, so through like tantric yoga or tantric meditation, you're working with your chakras and you're kind of addressing like any energy imbalances within your body that could be affecting, like, how you're feeling about a certain thing or a certain person, or like affecting the choices that you're making in life. And then, you kind of also look at, well, even like the energy of your space, like feng shui. Are you kind of limiting yourself by like what you're placing in certain areas that shouldn't be there? And, just that, all these things that seem so random aren't random at all. It's just about like, can you tune into like exactly what's going on and on what level to make like the changes you need to make. And it depends. But that's like the most amazing thing, is that energy, whether it's a ghost or whether it's inside yourself, and everything in between, it's all the same. It's all the same language. It just comes out in different ways.
Yeah, it's just expressed differently through people or maybe places, like you're saying. There's a lot there, and I feel like I'm definitely gonna need to have you back on it and talk to you about some more stuff. I have a ton of questions. Do you have any questions for me before we end up wrapping? I'm sure you don't have to. It's totally fine. I always just ask everybody. So
Yeah, no, I just, I mean, I'm just happy to be here. It's a lot to take in. You have like, like all the, like, seriously, your lights are huge. Like
Thank-
it's like
thank
I'm
you.
on the sun.
Yeah, appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot. Oh, I just thought of this too. I forgot to ask you this when we were kind of in the thick of talking about being a medium and communicating with other people and stuff like that in that way. Have you ever communicated with anything that wasn't a person, like either animal or like I know we mentioned like in certain religions there's demons and things like that. Anything like that ever happen? I was just curious.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, not with animals. I know that there are certain people who are really good with like being animal psychics. For some reason, I mean, I have a few exceptions, but I'm not really tuned into what they're doing. Just because they have a different thought process than humans. But yeah, negative entities, that's kind of the blanket term, is like some religions will attribute demonic qualities to some of the types of negative entities, but there's a bunch of different types of negative entities out there. So some like feed off of a place, like if there's a lot of just kind of, how do I put it, like Vegas, like a casino, like where there's a lot of low energy and there's a lot of people cycling through and there's a lot of desperation and
Yeah.
whatever. Then there's like negative entities that like attach themselves to a person and different things in between. So like some will feed off of the energy of like a certain type of relationship between two people. Some will feed off of someone and make them like physically ill or have health problems.
Wow.
Some will trigger like mental illness issues. And yeah, it's
That's kind of scary.
yeah.
Very scary. Honestly, it's scary. That's like reminded me of the paranormal activity. Yeah.
Yeah.
That I don't know if you've seen those movies at all, but
Yeah, I mean, it's been years, but so like going back to The Shining though, that was a great story. Stephen King like really like honed in on the fact of the energy of a space kind of contributing to like people like doing things, because it was like a series of events over time and people kept getting drawn to that place because it was the energy of the place, and then they were like committing these atrocities there. So that was phenomenal.
yeah, it's scary too. It's just terrifying in a lot of ways. I mean, it's interesting. It's really fascinating to like kind of to get into, but yeah, it's still a little scary.
But that's my jam. Like
Yeah.
energy and like finding like energy imbalances in homes where people think that they might be haunted and that sort of thing. That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's super cool, and it seems like there is a lot that goes into it, and interpreting that as well. So I just want to say thank you for being here on the show. Thank you to everybody who's listening, tuned in, whether you're watching the premiere of this live or listening days after. Loren, you're at the Dole Mansion, right?
Yep.
Are there days of that people should reach out, or you want to
I'm
plug
by
your stuff? Or?
Yeah, I'm by appointment. It's just mysticchick.net. And that's where you can reach me, set up an appointment, and yeah.
And you get the podcast on there as well.
Yes.
And how does the podcast work? Is that what's the like release schedule that people could expect to check that out?
Oh, well, I have that's a little sporadic
Okay.
right now, but it's Happy Hour with Mystic Chick, and I do a live stream, and I'll usually, like, if you follow me on Facebook or Twitter, you'll get indications as to like when the next live stream is.
Okay.
And then I upload podcasts afterwards. So
Awesome. Well, we'll have the website linked down below when this goes live, so you guys go check out Loren's stuff and maybe book an appointment with her and see her at the Dole Mansion. That would be really cool.
yes.
I'm looking to go there hopefully in the next few weeks, maybe a month or so, to see Joe. So I really want to get out there. But aside from that, thanks again to everybody who tuned in, whether it was live, days after, you're listening on Spotify. I want to say thank you to our patrons. They should be up on the screen right now. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. If you're interested in becoming a patron and getting access to exclusive content, behind the scenes content, as well as a series where we break down how we make, mix, master, and produce all my songs, we have all that stuff over on Patreon, and you can join for as little as $1. So if you're interested, go to patreon.com/DarrenRita. And aside from that, I want to say thank you to Kenosha Auto Insurance for sponsoring this episode. This has been the 125th episode of the Detox Podcast. I will see you guys next week. Peace.